it is going to be incredibly difficult for Karmelo's defense team to establish that Austin, the 17-year-old who wanted Karmelo out of his tent, represented a deadly threat or even serious bodily harm. Now, again, we don't know what was said. We don't know what was threatened. But what Karmelo said was that he was going to put his hands on me.
Strategic back again. What's going on, guys? Hope you guys are having a great week so far. Definitely appreciate you sharing your time with me. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe, and support the channel so you can be notified whenever I go live or drop a video just like this. Now, we have some updates in the Karmelo Anthony case. Karmelo Anthony had a bond reduction hearing. His side actually won what they were looking for, which is a reduced bond. His bond is now down to $250,000, and his family promptly paid that bond, and he walked out of jail.
Attorneys Kim T. Cole and Billy Clark walked through Kirkendall Stadium Thursday gathering evidence and surveying what last Wednesday morning was a Frisco police crime scene. An altercation between two high school track athletes led to a stabbing that resulted in one dead and another charged with murder.
We just really want to get in our clients' shoes and see what the environment was like. I know it's a beautiful day today. It wasn't anything like it was on April 2nd, but we want to see what it was, what he was going through, just kind of get an idea of, what he saw, what it looked like.
Anthony's attorneys urge the public to avoid rushing to judgment and assuming their client is guilty.
We're still praying for the family.
Like they replaced these attorneys. These aren't the attorneys anymore. They replaced them with a prominent attorney in the area, a Caucasian attorney. Not saying that his race matters, but everybody keeps talking about race in this case. But they did replace these attorneys with new attorneys now that they were able to raise a significant amount of money, and they continue to raise money on their Give, Send, and Go.
And we also want to ensure that justice is served equally. So that's what we're hoping.
Prior to the bond hearing. Now, let's go to that bond hearing.
Well, a teenager charged with murder spent his first night at home after being released on bond for the stabbing death of another student at a track meet that happened nearly 2 weeks ago. Karmelo Anthony's bond was reduced from $1 million to $250,000 just yesterday.
So
he's now required.
This is Karmelo Anthony leaving the county jail. Like, this is him leaving the county jail. This is first picture of this kid since the stabbing of Austin Metcalf.
To wear an ankle monitor and stay inside of his parents' home. During the hearing, Anthony's defense attorney questioned the teen's dad about his character.
And prior to this, what was on his mind was what college he was going to go to.
The new attorney that the family was able to secure after getting a lot of that gift sends and go money. Yeah. So this is the guy they replaced their old attorneys with.
This is
He's a good attorney,
a
too.
tragedy all the way around for both families.
Anthony has been in the Collin County Jail since April 2nd when he and 17-year-old Austin Metcalf were allegedly involved in a verbal altercation. Witnesses say that Anthony pulled out a knife and stabbed Metcalf once in the chest that killed him. Metcalf was laid to rest on Saturday morning.
So we're going to watch a bit of that. And we're also going to watch some of the attorneys talk because something interesting is happening in this case. It seems like the people and the Internet of Things is divided on racial lines. And we talked about that on this channel quite a bit. We also talked about it in the members only section. Make sure that you get a membership so you can get exclusive content. In our discussions, we talked about how sad it is that we are divided on race and the desire and the wish for us to eventually come together and start respecting each other and loving each other as just Americans.
And it's that national attention. It's played a big role when we're talking about the security and the safety of all parties, really, in this case. And that was something mentioned today. And you could see it, too, here just outside the Collin County Courthouse, inside the courtroom as well. There was a heightened security presence, additional law enforcement, at least more than usual. The judge even made it known that she had received several threatening phone calls ahead of the hearing and hasn't been under this kind of pressure, really, or seen a case reach this public scale in her 13 years of being on the bench. Another key thing that stood out a little bit earlier today was who took the witness stand. We did hear from Karmelo Anthony's father, the suspect in this case, and we got more of an idea of his son's character. He talked about Karmelo Anthony being a straight-A student, the captain of the football and track teams, and a church regular. Now, the defense says all that matters when it comes to bond. Also, that Anthony's not a flight risk and has strong community ties.
Bond, as the judge said, is not supposed to be an instrument of oppression. It's not supposed to keep people in jail. It's not supposed to punish. It's supposed to ensure that a person shows up to court, complies with all conditions, and it's supposed to keep the community safe. So this is a large and substantial bond, and the judge has, I think, rightly imposed reasonable conditions that will ensure both Karmelo and the Anthony family's safety, but also the safety of the community.
I'm actually good with this, guys. You know, in all honesty, everybody deserves the opportunity, depending on your case, of course, for bond. Like the attorney says, bond is not an instrument of punishing you. We don't give people bond or withhold bond because we think that they did it. Bond is to ensure that you come back to court. Sometimes you could take dangerousness to the community into account. But let's be honest here, whether you think this young man is innocent or guilty, there's no indication that he's going to go out there on bond and stab more people. So, I mean, his bail was $1 million. Now it's down to $250,000. Now he has the constitutional right to have the opportunity to fight his case from the outside. But we're going to discuss this more because this whole video is being placed on racial lines. And unfortunately, it seems like it's only happening with regular everyday people. Because when you speak to the professionals on the left or the right, on the black or the white side, feels so weird saying that, black or white side. I mean, we should just be one people. Seriously. They're all saying the same thing, that to claim self-defense is an uphill battle. Because the laws are very clear that you have to use proportional force, and it appears in this case that proportional force was not used.
Prosecutors argue the bond should stay at $1 million for a number of reasons. They first pointed out the severity of this case, but also pointed to that fundraiser that raised over $400,000 in legal costs for Anthony's family. But the judge disagreed here. She settled on house arrest with an ankle monitor, again that reduced bond, and a weekly phone check-in with a bailiff.
Made the call, and so what's important is what's next. Frisco PD will be finishing up their investigation. They will submit the case to my office. We will review it and ultimately present it to a grand jury. And so that's what's next.
Anthony's accused of stabbing 17-year-old Austin Metcalf at a track meet between their schools. Witnesses say the two got into a fight over seating, that Metcalf pushed Anthony, and that's when Anthony pulled a knife from his bag and stabbed him in the heart. Metcalf died in his twin brother's arms, and court records say Anthony admitted to the stabbing and asked officers if this could count as self-defense. And both Karmelo Anthony's parents, along with Austin Metcalf's parents, were both inside the courtroom earlier this morning. As you can imagine, both parties, both quiet and somber. Andrew?
Sarah, just a couple of questions. When is the next court hearing? I mean, how long is Anthony going to be in this kind of home detention here?
That's to be determined at this point. Right now, Frisco PD just working on collecting evidence and giving that to the district attorney's office. They will then review it and then present that before a grand jury. So really on the DA's timeline, along with Frisco PD. As for Karmelo Anthony, yes, he'll be on house arrest. He cannot leave his home without the judge knowing, of course. He will have a leg monitor as well and will be under tight watch of his family, his friends at that home. And just learned a little bit more about his background and then what that home life will look like moving forward as he fights those charges from home now.
All right, Sarah Allegre there live for us in Frisco, Texas. Sarah, thanks for bringing us the details on this story. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.
All right, in the meantime here, it's not only our colleague there, Sarah Allegre with Fox, it's also our colleague there at Fox 4 Dallas, our friend reporter Stephen Dial. He's also on this story. He filed this report as well. Let's listen.
17-year-old Karmelo Anthony was silent after bonding out of the Collin County Jail and being placed on house arrest.
How is this self-defense?
2 days after the family of Austin Metcalf buried their son, they were at the Collin County Courthouse for a bond reduction hearing Monday. Karmelo Anthony is accused of stabbing and killing Metcalf at a Frisco track meet earlier this month. The case has quickly become national news, drawing a lot of attention, resulting in threats and increased security at the courthouse.
Threats and, talk of race war and all kinds of insanity isn't good for, obviously, the Anthony family. It's not good for the Metcalf family.
Cameras were not allowed inside the courtroom, but we did capture the Anthony family arriving. His father, Andrew, testified in the hearing. District Court Judge Angela Tucker said that she's never gotten this volume of calls and had to have this level of security in the courtroom in her 13 years on the bench. Court documents say Anthony stabbed Metcalf during a fight. When an officer arrived, court documents say Anthony told the officer, "I was protecting myself." Collin County District Attorney Greg Willis spoke after the hearing.
The judge has made the call, and so what's important is what's next, and it's our job to be level-headed, to be fact-based, and to follow the truth wherever it leads.
Anthony's father testified he's taking a leave from work because of the incident, and his wife is a stay-at-home mother with 3 other children. During the hearing, the prosecution brought up the fact that more than $400,000 have been raised for the Anthony family, saying a reduction is not needed because they have the funds. A big question in this case will be, why did Anthony bring a weapon to a high school stadium? It's a question that was asked of his attorney.
That's an understandable question, but it's not something that, frankly, we're prepared to even go into.
All right, our thanks there to our friend at Fox 4 Dallas, reporter Stephen Dial. So that's the news in this story. I know you've been following it extremely closely, that this 17-year-old Karmelo Anthony was released on a reduced bond today. Remember, prosecutors there had asked for $1 million. It's now been reduced to $250,000. So right now you're going to hear from Anthony's defense team, and this is how they are answering questions and rationalizing some of the self-defense arguments that have been made on their client's behalf. Let's listen.
We can't do this in here.
It's 5 more seconds. 5 more seconds? Okay. All right. Good? Everybody good? All right. Every Texan has the right to defend themselves when they reasonably fear for their life. Self-defense is a protection that applies to each and every one of us. There are 2 sides to every story, and Karmelo is a 17-year-old kid and an excellent student. He is the captain of his track team. He is the captain of his football team. And prior to this, what was on his mind was what college he was going to go to.
Good morning, everybody. There's not much I can say, but the judge...
Can you come this way?
All right. Sure.
Okay, that's fine, right there.
All right, there's not much I can say. The judge has made the call, and so what's important is what's next. Frisco PD will be finishing up their investigation. They will submit the case to my office. We will review it and ultimately present it to a grand jury. And so that's what's next. That's really much, it's pretty much all I can say right now. We do our speaking in as far as the facts go in the courtroom. Many of you were in there, so you understand what was said. But this is a terrible tragedy for our entire, not just Frisco, but Collin County community. One family has suffered a permanent loss. It's the most unnatural thing for a parent to lose their child. It's permanent, it's profound, it's certainly premature, and it's the hardest thing that I think a human being can go through is to lose their child. The Anthony family has had a different kind of loss, but a loss nonetheless. But the judge has made her call, and we look forward to continuing the process and looking forward to reviewing all the facts of the case that Frisco PD is coming up with and present it to a grand jury. What we're concerned about as prosecutors is justice, truth, and accountability. And so we will go where the facts lead us. Thank you so much.
Could you speak about the security and the vitriol and just the safety even for the judge and your officer?
Well, this has definitely rocked our entire community. And so it has struck a nerve in the community. And it's hard for everybody to be level-headed at a time like this. So that's where we come in. It's our job to be level-headed, to be fact-based, and to follow the truth wherever it leads. Thank you so much.
And what is your
put his hands on me, so he appears to be alleging that he is not the aggressor in all of this.
Absolutely.
That's kind of what we're taking from that.
A self-defense claim, if you will, that he said to the police.
Do we know, did the victim have any weapons?
The victim had no weapons, according to the arrest report. And they also said when they patted Karmelo Anthony down, they didn't find any weapons on his person either, which is interesting, knowing that it was a stabbing.
Right.
That's all according to the arrest report.
So this is at a meet, like you said, under a tent. They can't be the only two people there. Are there any witnesses?
There are witnesses, Vinny, and also in that same arrest report, there are two unnamed witnesses because they're minors, they can't name them. And they also, there's two varying stories here. The first one says Karmelo said some instigating words. So according to the arrest report, that first witness says Austin had told Anthony that he needed to move out from under the team's tent. And Anthony grabbed his bag, opened it, and reached inside and proceeded to tell Austin, "Touch me and see what happens." No one really thought Anthony really had any weapons in his bag, and Austin proceeded to touch Anthony. And then Anthony told Austin to punch him and see what happens. A short time later, Austin grabbed Anthony to tell him to move. And Anthony pulled out what, redacted, the witness here, recalled as a black knife and stabbed Austin once in the chest and then ran away. So, Vinny, that's according to witness number one. But another witness says Austin pushed Karmelo before the stabbing happened. Now, this second witness is being interviewed with Hunter Metcalf. That is the victim's twin brother. And according to the arrest report, Hunter Metcalf wasn't really speaking when the police was interviewing them. But according to this unnamed witness, this is from the point of view of the officer, it says, quote, he stated they were all sitting on the bleachers under a Memorial High School tent when another male who he did not know walked over and sat under the tent. Redacted then said Austin told this male that since he did not go to Memorial, he had to leave the tent. Austin and the male went back and forth, and then Austin stood up and pushed the male to get him out of the tent. Redacted had said during this time of arguing, the male was reaching around in his bag he had. It was at this time the male took out a knife and stabbed Austin and then left the scene. So there's some foundational things that corroborate here, Vinny, but you see the various nuances here between what witnesses have told police here.
Right, and everything that seems to be forming here as you listen to this is this self-defense, is this not self-defense?
I did, Vinny. I actually spoke with national trial attorney and civil rights attorney Lee Meritt, who's also a friend of the show, and his sons are actually zoned to Memorial High School. So this is a close-to-home story for him, but I spoke with him about the standards for self-defense in Texas because Texas is a stand-your-ground state. This is what he had to say about that.
In order for Karmelo to prevail on a self-defense defense, he has to establish that he reasonably feared for his life. And, you know, that's a steep hill to climb given the facts that I've heard so far, but that's the standard here in Texas. It is going to be incredibly difficult for Karmelo's defense team to establish that Austin, the 17-year-old who wanted Karmelo out of his tent, represented a deadly threat or even serious bodily harm. Now, again, we don't know what was said. We don't know what was threatened. But what Karmelo said was that he was going to put his hands on me. That's not he was going to kill me. You know, that's not, I thought he was seriously going to hurt me. It was an offensive touching. Anyway, all he described was the potential for an offensive touching, which is not going to be enough without more. And again, the evidence is still coming in.
So, Vinny, of course, this case is far from over, but you heard Lee say it there from a legal standpoint. From what he knows now, Karmelo may have an uphill battle as this case continues to unfold.